He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Marc Levin.
Hello, everybody. Marc Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. It is amazing now, more and more people see World War III. It is amazing now, more and more people see this caliphate. And people are now using these terms. Oh, Mark, you're overstating the case. Oh, Mark, you're trying to be provocative. Oh, Mark, you must be a neocon. Of course, I'm none of those things. I'm a realist who believes in liberty and this country. And when you see systemic genocide and ethnic cleansing on a large, large scale, well, of course the forces of evil have their eyes on us eventually. And thus something needs to be done about it. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. You've heard a lot of the talk already all day. But I want to focus in on how we're losing our own country. There's a federal judge in Texas. And the media won't tell you anything about this federal judge who has ruled properly, thanks to the Attorney General's office in Texas and these 25 other states, 26 states challenging Obama's unconstitutional amnesty. 26 states. And since he's done this, we've learned that through the back door, millions of them will be eligible for citizenship. Millions of them will be eligible for tens of thousands of dollars in government giveaways that you pay for, health care, Social Security, Medicare, earned income tax credit, and all these people are not children of illegal immigrants. Many of them overstayed their visas. Millions of them overstayed their visas, having signed on that they would come to the United States and work or teach or tour or whatever and then leave, and they never left. And you should ask every one of these amnesty advocates, what about those people? Seems to me that's easy. Federal District Judge Andrew Scott Hannon, Hanen, deserves our praise. He's not some yokel in rural Texas. The man graduated #1 in his law school, Baylor Law School, in 1978. First in his class. He was a briefing attorney to the Honorable Joe Grenhill, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Texas. And he was in private practice. He was nominated to be a federal district court judge by George H.W. Bush in 1992. The nomination lapsed. He was renominated in 2002 by George W. Bush. And he was confirmed by a 97-0 vote by the U.S. Senate, May 9, 2002. Does this sound like a dummy to you? You want to hear a dummy? That's Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I'll get back to her later. It's amazing. Republicans are dummies, constitutionalists are dummies, conservatives are dummy, and we're the smartest people on the planet, quite frankly. College degree, law degree, advanced degree, or no degree. And so he ruled, issuing a temporary order. But he said a number of things you need to know about when he stopped Obama's lawlessness because nobody else would. And the Texas Attorney General's office has pointed out some of these as well. Here's some excerpts from his ruling. And remember, Texas led a 26-state coalition. This is unprecedented. Challenging Obama's unconstitutional November immigration fiat. Among other things, the judge, in a very long opinion, over 100 pages, he said, what is perhaps most perplexing about defendant's claim, that would be Obama's, that DAPA is merely guidance, is the president's own labeling of the program and formally announcing it to the nation for the first time. President Obama stated, I just took an action to change the law, quote unquote. The program, he writes, clearly represents a substantive change in immigration policy. It is a program instituted to give certain newly adopted class of 4.3 million illegal immigrants not only legal presence in the United States, but also the right to work legally and the right to receive a myriad of government benefits to which they would not otherwise be entitled. It does more than supplement the statute. If anything, it contradicts it. It is, in effect, a new law. The judge wrote, the states assert that the government has abandoned its duty to enforce the law. This assertion cannot be disputed. Non-enforcement does not entail refusing to remove these individuals as required by law and then providing them 3 years of immunity from that law, legal presence status, plus any benefits that may accompany legal presence under current regulations. In other words, he's saying prosecutorial discretion not to deport somebody doesn't mean you can then turn around, legalize them, give them legal presence status, and any other benefits that might accrue to them. That's well beyond not deporting somebody. He said, Obama's program does not represent mere inadequacy. It is a complete abdication. The DHS, Department of Homeland Security, does have discretion in the manner in which it chooses to fulfill the expressed will of Congress. It cannot, however, enact a program whereby it not only ignores the dictates of Congress, but actively acts to thwart them. You would think all the civil liberties phonies, all the editorial pages in the phony old media would be applauding this judge, but you watch. They're going to smear this judge. You would think they'd stand up against a lawless imperial president. But since his name isn't Nixon and it's Obama, they won't. The judge goes on. The Department of Homeland Security Secretary is not just rewriting the laws, he's creating them from scratch. The court finds defendants' labeling of the actions as guidance policy disingenuous and is discussed contrary to the substance of DAPA. There are millions of dollars at stake in the form of unrecoverable costs to the states if this policy is implemented and later found unlawful in terms of infrastructure and personnel to handle the influx of applicants. In other words, here's what he's saying. I'm going to stop this now so it works its way up to the Supreme Court, because otherwise all these policies are going to be put in place. All these people are going to have conferred legal status upon them. They're going to have Social Security cards and access to Medicare and be receiving IRS subsidies and so forth by the time the Supreme Court acts, if it gets to the Supreme Court. So I have to prevent that from happening. So this issue is decided on the merits and not on politics. And what he did, this judge, is he figured out what Obama was up to. Hurry up, get as many people on the dole as you can, hand out as many Social Security cards as you can, as many benefits as you can, and then the impossibility of unwinding it becomes a factor in a judge's consideration. And this judge said, no. Wait, Mr. President. Wait, executive branch. You don't have any authority to do this as far as I'm concerned. None. And this judge knows his decision will be considered the ultimate decision further up the branch, but he's saying, wait. Because he knows, as I've said before, as any real lawyer knows, as any real judge or justice knows, Obama plays this game, catch me if you can. I'm going to turn things upside down so fast, hand out goodies so fast, unilaterally change the law so fast that by the time the courts catch up, it's too late. And this judge says, no, it isn't. Stop. This guy's a hero. If you believe in the rule of law, I don't care what your ideology is. If you believe in the rule of law, this judge is solid as a rock. Certainly in this ruling. And he even says, quote, this genie would be impossible to put back into the bottle. This court finds that directly interested or not, the public interest factor that weighs the heaviest is ensuring that actions of the executive branch, and within it, the Department of Homeland Security, one of the nation's most important law enforcement agencies, comply with this country's laws and its Constitution. No wonder this guy graduated number one in his law school, Baylor Law School, in 1978. I mean, you know, he's no Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but thank God for that. So the judge halted Obama's amnesty. But the White House is going to appeal. Well, of course it is. And then I want to get to another side of this. Republicans are playing hot potato with Homeland Security funding. This is the editorial, the lead editorial in the Washington Compost. Everything we just discussed about an imperial president, he's not even an imperial president, a despotic president who despises the rule of law, who rejects the constitutional constraints on the office he sits in. The Washington Post is perfectly fine with that. I want you to know what they say when we return.
Marc Levin.
So the Washington Compost, as you might imagine, they like police state government. They like centralized iron-fisted government if it's led by a statist. And any resistance whatsoever, even relatively meek, tepid, timid resistance from the Congress, is to be attacked. Because the Washington Compost knows about 3/4 of the Republicans in the Congress care about what the Washington Compost says. The rest of the country could care less, which is why it's bankrupt and it needed the Amazon guy, Bozo, to come in there and buy it. And so the fool's right. In the impasse over funding that threatens to shutter the Department of Homeland Security at the end of the month, John Boehner has labored mightily to wash his hands of responsibility. By Washington's cynical stance, see, they're trying to put the shoulder on Boehner. Boehner may have a point. The Republican-controlled House indeed did do a job on the American people. So now the Republicans finally standing up and saying no to endless amnesty, no to open borders, no to subsidizing illegal aliens by calling them temporarily legal, no more drain on our Social Security, Medicare, and tax system. People who've overstayed their visas should have to leave. That's doing a number on the American people, according to these mindless buffoons at the Washington Compost. And it goes on. Goes on trashing the Republicans in the House. And then, of course, it cites the French Republicans in the Senate. Jeff Flake, who is not Jeff, but a Flake from Arizona. You know, they label him more high-mindedly, Jeff Flake pointed out the House could have used its time more constructively, pass an immigration bill to deal meaningfully with underlying issue of 11 million undocumented immigrants. So Mr. Flake believes that even people who've overstayed their visas, they give them temporary access to this country to teach or to tour or to work. You know, if you go to the circus, you have to have a temporary visa to come in and perform and so forth. So if somebody stays, they have a right to be here. No, they don't. And they quote Mark Kirk. When we were given the honor of the majority, we have to govern wisely. Shutdowns are not wise policy for key national security-related departments. Another buffoon. Not only do they not stand up for the Constitution, it's even worse. And I talked about this the other day, but Ryan Lovelace over there at National Review Online, he's on the job. Listen to this about the Department of Homeland Security, which I've pointed out. If funding runs out for the Department of Homeland Security later this month, it's unlikely that most Americans will notice any difference. Why? Nearly 200,000 of the department's estimated 231,000 civilian and military employees were deemed essential and continued working during the 2013 government shutdown, according to the Congressional Research Service. Such so-called essential employees, those deemed responsible for saving lives and protecting property, would remain in place again if funding ran out this time around. Nothing's going to be shut down. Mr. Flake, Mr. Kirk, and the other French Republicans in the Senate need to stand up for the Constitution. They need to stand up for the American people. They need to stand up for American sovereignty, for a secure border and a secure nation. And stop playing into the left-wing lies and myths. The fact of the matter is, that department never shuts the hell down. And they go on at National Review, but such facts have not stopped the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Jay Johnson, from describing the impact of a shutdown in his department as catastrophic. How can it be catastrophic when they determine who the essential personnel is? Just think about it for 2 seconds. The government decides which employees are essential to prevent a catastrophe. They decide. You and I have nothing to say about it. And they've decided 200,000 out of 230,000 employees in that department are essential, meaning they don't go home. They work. They'll get paid after the shutdown. So how's it going to be catastrophic? So the pressure's on by the lib media to get the Senate to buckle. But the Levin plan needs to be put in place. The Levin plan on the filibuster rule needs to be put in place. And I hear it's being talked about today on other shows, and that's a good thing. There's no downside, no fear-mongering. I will briefly, but again, explain what the Levin plan is, so hopefully some Republicans will stand up in the Senate, offer it, and in that way engage directly with our despotic president. We shouldn't have to leave it to a courageous federal judge. How about a few politicians stepping up? I'll be right back.
Marc Levin, America's Paul Revere. Call him now at 877-381-3811.
Do I hate these Islamo-Nazi terrorists? I'm going to get to them. I promise I'm going to get to them. It was all I could do to get to this first, because it's going to be overlooked if I don't address it. But good God. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you something that's going to shock you. I'm going to tell the Washington Compost something that they know. I'm going to tell Jay Johnson, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, what he knows. All the media know it. All the bureaucrats know it. All the leftists know it. Everyone in the administration knows it. Do you know the United States Congress couldn't shut down the Department of Homeland Security right now if it wanted to? If it wanted to! Unless it absolutely abolished the department and everyone in it. Because under existing statutory and regulatory authority, we have what's called essential personnel. And over 80% of the personnel at the Department of Homeland Security are designated as essential. We're not even debating facts here, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, they're going to shut down the Department of Homeland Security. They can't. Even if they want to right now, they can't shut it down. In other words, they would have to abolish it. And they're not abolishing it. They're not abolishing the jobs. So here's the truth. The Republicans, for once, are on the right side of the American people. They're on the right side of the Constitution. They're on the right side of the statute. They're on the right side of policy. Don't buckle. Tell the American people that when the Department of Homeland Security is not funded, quote unquote, that over 80% of the personnel there who actually work on national security, immigration, and things of that matter remain on the job. Get the message out. Don't rely on the Washington Compost. Don't even react to the Washington Compost. Pretend it doesn't exist. Nobody reads that crap paper anymore. They line their bird cages with it. That's one big waste of a lot of trees, that phony newspaper. And that's a phony editorial. Don't the Republicans care about national security? Now that's funny. That's really funny. Look what Obama's unleashed in the Middle East. Look what Obama's unleashed on our borders. Look at Obama attacking the law enforcement in our own country. Oh, don't the Republicans care about law enforcement? And shut up, you damn fools. You're so 70s. Watergate was your high mark, and it also destroyed you. Nobody likes you. Nobody believes you. And there's Jeff Flake and John McCain and Mark Kirk and the usual knee-jerkers. We got to demonstrate we can govern, so let's capitulate. We got to demonstrate we can govern, so let Obama walk all over us. We got to demonstrate we're bipartisan, so let Obama shred the Constitution. What a bunch of damn fools. Johnny McCain. Yellow. Johnny McCain, you out there somewhere? I'm sure he is. Probably taking a taxi to one of the TV studios. Oh, Lindsey Graham, the Lindsay. Lindsey Goober Graham won't come on the program. I wonder why. I thought he was a tough guy. Why won't John McCain's illegitimate son come on the program? Well, I don't know why. Anyway, nobody's shutting down the Department of Homeland Security. That's the joke. That's the joke. And everybody at the Department of Homeland Security knows it. Everybody's essential there, even though I'm sure they're not. Here's Ed, Dallas, Texas, the great WBAP. He's a DHS employee. How are you, sir? Go ahead, Ed. It's your shining moment. Go.
Mr. Levin, how are you, sir? Congratulations on the extension of your contract. I am grateful that common sense prevails in some mediums anymore.
Well, my corporate brothers have been actually wonderful on that contract. But let's hope there's not another contract out on me, if you understand what I mean. But anyway, Ed, you're an employee at the DHS. Am I right or not?
I am an employee specifically of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, one of the many components of the Department of Homeland Security. Yep. And I have already been designated as an essential employee, just as I was during the sequestration shutdown, quote unquote, in October of 2013. And during my 20 years of service to the United States Army, I also saw a couple of shutdowns under Mr. Reagan, as you so often refer to. And we all continue to go to work because the national security cannot be shut down. So to all your listeners, you are absolutely on the money. You've got all the facts squared away. It shall continue. We won't get paid, those of us who are essential, but the paycheck will eventually come.
That's the point. The paycheck will eventually come. By the way, thank you for your service, sir. You really sound like a great patriot. But it's true. And you know what else, Ed? There are some non-essential paper pushers. Maybe they ought to take a little time off. What do you think of that?
Oh, sure. This man, I mean, I think we're coming close to a number of federal service that's going to equal the Roosevelt days if you do one of those, population contrasts between, that period of time and the current period of time. The Citizenship and Immigration Service is expanding to accommodate all of these applications for this new benefit as a result of
this must frustrate the hell out of you watching this.
It's mind-boggling, sir. It's mind-boggling.
All right, listen, Ed, I want to send you a copy of the Liberty Amendments. You sound like a great guy. Don't hang up. Thank you. So there you are. There's a witness to the facts that I'm stating. It's unequivocal. There's no debate. Over 80% of the employees at the Department of Homeland Security, mostly the employees that matter, that the government self-identifies as essential, will still be there. Ooh, we can't shut down the department. They're right. We can't shut the damn thing down no matter what. Did somebody introduce a bill to abolish DHS? No. Well, unless they introduce a bill and it passes and the president signs it, it doesn't go away. And I'm sick and tired of the lies. And I'm sick and tired of Republicans shooting themselves in the foot, repeating lies that are against their best interests. And I'm particularly sick and tired of idiots on TV and radio who repeat the same damn thing. Congress cannot shut down the Department of Homeland Security without abolishing it, which means they can't shut it down today, tomorrow, or the next day. However, they don't have to fund the unconstitutional parts of the department. And that's why the House bill is so important. And that's why the House is right to stand firm. Now, Mr. McConnell, it's your turn. Stop whining. Stop worrying about what the lowest common denominator in your caucus is saying and thinking as they run to the New York Slimes and the Washington Compost and Political and every liberal outlet they can. Ooh, we got to show we can govern. How about you show that you really can govern and stand with the American people and stand for the Constitution? Showing you can govern doesn't mean capitulating to Barack Obama's unconstitutional fiats. Mr. Flake, Mr. Kirk, Mr. McCain, and the other gaggle of morons. Oh, Graham. But there's even something more important that needs to be done, and I'm going to continue to call for this. Because it's really not controversial. There's a Senate rule. Not a constitutional rule. Under the Constitution, Congress, that would include the Senate, can make its own rules. Well, way back when, they relied on Robert's Rules of Order that was actually updated by Thomas Jefferson. Anyway, the Senate adopted many of the rules. They've adjusted them over the years. You know, a filibuster way back when wasn't 60 votes. It was 67 votes. They lowered it to 60 votes. Harry Reid, the nuclear option, he decided that he would suspend the filibuster rule just by a majority vote of Democrats when it came to federal judges, except the Supreme Court, because they wanted to load up the courts with leftists, which is what they've now done at the circuit level. It's loaded up with leftists. I can tell you, somebody that has a legal organization, Landmark Legal, it's very difficult now at the appellate level. Another Obama legacy, Soviet-style judges. Ooh, what did I say? It's true. What I am saying now is that the Republicans should announce that because we are dealing with a lawless president, they call him lawless enough, they call him imperial enough, thanks to us, yours truly, great. And then they go, okay, let's take a recess. I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing ever. Oh, let's show we can govern. Govern with what? With whom? What they ought to say is, no, during the pendency of this presidency, which runs out in 2 years, we are now going to suspend the filibuster rule on legislation. And we will pass what we choose to pass. And he can use that pen to veto what he wants to veto. But the gloves are off. And we will not stand idly by while the President of the United States violates the Constitution and undermines the most important branch of government. That is the one that is elected every 2 years, the House, and 1/3 of the members of the Senate every 2 years. And I brought this up November 21, 2013. It's only a minute and a half. Take a listen. Cut one, Mr. Producer. Go. Let me help you out just a little bit. Here's what you should have said today. You go ahead and do this, Harry Reid and Schumer. You go ahead and do this, Dick Durbin and Harkin and all the rest of you miscreants and malcontents. You go ahead and do this. Let me tell you what we're going to do when we take back the Senate. If we take back the Senate. We're going to eliminate the filibuster rule altogether. And by a simple majority, we're going to repeal Obamacare. That's what we're going to do. There's no point in we, the Republican Party, there's no point in we, the Republicans in the Senate, following tradition, following Robert's Rules of Order. There's no point in us doing it when we're up against a force that doesn't abide by tradition, doesn't abide by rules, doesn't abide by the Constitution. Quite the contrary, seeks to destroy them all in their pursuit of absolute power. So we just want to make it clear today. What we're going to do is lift the filibuster rule, and we're going to repeal Obamacare. And because there is no filibuster rule in the House, they will vote with us. And then it'll go to the president, and he will veto it, and then it will come back to Congress. And we will either muster the votes to override his veto or we won't. But after that point, we're going to target every single Democrat, and we're going to defeat as many as we can to get to our veto-proof Senate and House.
Marc Levin.
I have no idea why the Republicans are so scared in the Senate. It's all about perception, and perception that they're worried about is based on absolute, flat-out lies. Come on, boys, stand firm. You can do it. Yes, you can. You know, the economic warning signs are growing. There's actually currency market chaos going on around the world. Countries like Japan fallen into recession. Greece may abandon the euro. The head of the IMF said economic growth is too low, too brittle, too lopsided. You even have Alan Greenspan some weeks ago. Alan Greenspan saying that the Fed may be forced to raise rates, even if the economy isn't ready for it. That's what he warned. Significant volatility in the markets, and he expressed concern also about the European economy. And he advised investors to buy gold. Quote, Mr. Greenspan said, this Wall Street Journal, gold is a good place to put money these days, given its value as a currency outside of the policies conducted by governments, unquote. And he's right. That's why I have some gold, and I have investments in other places. You diversify, because you can't control what the nut jobs are doing in Europe. You can't control what the nut jobs are doing in this country. But you can control your own finances and protect yourself. You've worked hard. You have your family to take care of. So you can just do it. You don't need permission. Call my friends at Goldline, the only gold company I trust. Be sure to ask about Goldline's groundbreaking Price Shield and Express IRA program. Ask for your free investors kit and have confidence in knowing you'll be working with a company that's been helping clients acquire gold and silver for over half a century. It's not one of these fly-by-night companies. They don't hire actors to front for them. They are a serious, substantive company that have been around for over 50 years. Call Goldline today, 1-877-365-COIN, and ask them about the different payment options and read their important risk information to see if buying gold and silver is right for you. Now, notice that they want you to read about the system, read about the process, read about the product, and draw your own conclusions. You don't hear that from any other gold company. So don't wait. Get the information. You can get it right now, 1-877-365-COIN. And don't forget, for a limited time, and exclusively for my listeners, just calling in, Goldline will give you a George Washington $1 presidential coin. It's absolutely free, along with the free investor kit. So call Goldline today at 1-877-365-2646, 1-877-365-COIN, 1-877-365-COIN. I'm sure many of you have been thinking about it. You haven't acted. Well, there's only one way to get something done, and that's to act. And let's see here. So I just wanted to make the point, I think I have now, like nobody else, with exclamation marks and underlining over and over again. Let the DHS, quote-unquote, shut down, because it doesn't shut down. Don't fund Obama's unconstitutional acts. Because if you do, any court in the land is going to see it. Despite the court ruling today, the circuit courts and the Supreme Court, they will all say, Congress gave its imprimatur to Obama's actions by funding them. Now, here's the other question I have. Now that we have a federal court that has put on hold the implementation of Obama's unconstitutional fiat, do you think the Republican senators like Mr. Flake and Mr. McCain and Mr. Kirk and Mr. Graham and a gaggle of others would now vote to fund something that a federal judge has said is likely unconstitutional? So now it even goes further. Not only would they be funding Obama's unconstitutional act, not only would they be funding it, they now, by funding it, would be undermining a federal court decision. I don't put it past these Republicans. They are so flaky, so disingenuous, so superficial, such media hacks, and I mean liberal media hacks, that some of them will buckle and buckle quickly because of an editorial, a lie-filled editorial in the Washington Compost, lying about shutting down the DHS, lying about the Constitution, lying about who's responsible. Basically 7, 8, 9, 10, 14 faceless, nameless leftists. That's what makes up an editorial board. And the Republicans better not buckle. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Marc Levin.
Hello, everybody. Marc Levin here. Hour 2. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Well, the Senate almost unanimously confirmed a bureaucrat to be Secretary of Defense. Ash Carter. What's with the names of this administration? J. Johnson. J-E-H. Johnson. Ash, A-S-H. Carter. In any event, and so that bureaucrat is there to take orders and to dismantle the Department of Defense. Because you see, in Obama's world, the Department of Defense is an evil entity. It represents colonialism and imperialism. In Obama's world, illegal aliens are to be celebrated. Illegal aliens are virtuous. Or as Jeb Bush put it, they're here for love. But not military personnel. Obama holds no quarter for them. Nobody talks about the Veterans Administration anymore. Oh, I guess it's all fixed. Nobody talks about their health care that they've earned. They've earned. Not people who simply get it, who haven't earned a damn thing. Even the PXs are being shut down. The prices are being increased. So the squeeze is on for people who serve in the military. And so many of these generals and admirals, they ought to be resigning in droves in protest. That would make a difference. But they don't and they won't. They carry out their orders too. Now, what do you want me to do? You want me to tell you that 45 human beings in western Iraqi town were now burned to death by the Islamo-Nazis? Well, they were. You want me to tell you that there's a caliphate spreading? Well, I have. I was the first to say this. Well, actually, Glenn Beck and I were the first to say this. You want me to tell you World War III is going on? Well, I was the first to say that. Does it matter? Not really. But I don't need to go over old territory that other hosts go over today and yesterday because we've been there and we've done that. If America doesn't lead, nobody leads. The reason is Egypt's not strong enough. Jordan's not strong enough. Europe's not strong enough. France is imploding. The anti-Semitism and the Jew hate in France is at a level not seen since the early 1930s. And it's spreading all across Europe. And Jews are fleeing. Jews are fleeing Europe for two places, Israel and the United States. That's it. They're fleeing. Other people are fleeing too. 45 people burned by the Islamo-Nazis near the Marine training base, Al-Assad Air Base. And we sit there. Genocide all around us. Genocide spreading. We still going to hear from the isolationist Republicans talking about how we are responsible for all this? Of course, Obama's responsible for what has been unleashed in Iraq, but none of us are responsible for Islamo-Nazi mentality. That's all on them. Obama's responsible for not trying to contain it. He wanted to be so different. He wanted to be the president that closed down wars, didn't open them, and now we have World War III. And Obama has blood on his hands. Biden has blood on his hands. Every one of those pathetic secretaries of defense under this president, they have blood on their hands too. So does that idiot Susan Rice. You can name the list, all of them. Their policies open the door to the Islamo-Nazis. And it's not just ISIS and Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah and Hamas and all the rest of them. It's the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran, which is building its own caliphate. So let me update this so all the backbenchers can repeat it tomorrow or at some time down the road. There are actually two caliphates developing now, two Islamo-Nazi caliphates. One, at the behest of the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran, that terrorist regime that butchers and rapes and tortures its own people, and the developing Islamo-Nazi regime, which is even spreading beyond the Middle East into Africa and other parts of the world, this so-called ISIS. ISIS. So two caliphates. You know what's needed here? And I don't mean to be provocative, but Obama brought it up first. You know what's needed now, ladies and gentlemen? You ready for this? A crusade against the Islamo-Nazi crusade. You might even call it a Christian crusade. Call it whatever you will. There now must be a crusade. We should secure our borders, unite our people, build up our military, and kill the enemy, and defeat the enemy. Well, how are we going to do that? You can't kill them all. You don't have to kill them all. Did we kill every German in Germany in order to defeat the Third Reich? No. Did we kill everybody in Japan in order to defeat Tojo's Japan? No. Did we kill everybody in Italy to defeat Mussolini's Italy? No. So it's a stupid comment. What are you going to do, kill all of them? No, but we can try. But that said, they actually hold territory now. They have bases. They have towns. Yes, they do. And in these towns, they are slaughtering the inhabitants. It's either join them or die. They're slaughtering the men. They're raping and enslaving the women. And so, some of these towns need to go. I'm sorry, they just do. Now, if this were World War II and I was saying these things in an open mic about the Axis powers, I would be applauded. Today it's, oh, he got a screw loose? Well, what's going on there? The bombing of Dresden I've talked about before. You've probably been misinformed and probably thought that the United States did most of the bombing on Dresden. That's not correct. Britain did most of the bombing of Dresden with our support. And that was an important thing. Day and night. Burn it to the ground. No pinpricks. You can't defeat an enemy with pinpricks. You can't defeat an enemy with 1, 2, 8, 12, 14 sorties a day. And you can't keep announcing to the enemy what you won't do. This is why we cannot succeed with Knucklehead in the Oval Office. Knucklehead. I think that's a pretty tame comment to call the Knucklehead in the Oval Office. Now that they're busy, they're done with their busy hashtagging about what took place in Nigeria, the president never talks about Nigeria, does he? No, he doesn't. You know, I'm only 57 years old, but I remember when white presidents ignored, if they ignored, say what was going on in South Africa and so forth, they would be accused of racism. They would be accused of treating Africa differently than other continents. But Obama's not accused of that. Does Obama seem like he's particularly interested in what goes on in Nigeria? Did he seem like he was particularly interested in what went on in the Sudan, in the Congo, in Somalia? No, not particularly. Nobody says a word but me. But me. Boko Haram is part of ISIS. The slaughtering of the Coptic Christians is part of ISIS. The burning of burning to death, another 45 human beings is part of ISIS. This is the Islamo-Nazi crusades. 2 caliphates. And there needs to be a crusade to kill it, to destroy it. These are basically well-armed thugs, well-armed rapists, well-armed child abusers. They're Islamo-Nazis. And the problem is they're conquering these areas and these towns because these people aren't armed and they have no way to defend themselves. There's no military, there's no police force, there's nothing. So they roll into these towns, they grab the women, they grab the little girls, they abuse them, they rape them, they sell them into slavery, they kill the men, the fathers, the grandfathers, the brothers, the boys. They have a grand old time thinking of different ways to torture them. Decapitate, people are used to that. Now we'll just burn them alive. What next? I don't even want to give ideas. When you watched American Sniper, as many of you did, one of the scenes I can't get out of my head. If you don't want to hear it, shut off your radio. One of the scenes I cannot get out of my head was when the Islamo-Nazi subhuman cockroach they called the Butcher. Okay, if you don't want to listen, if you hear this, that's your problem. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. When he took out a drill and had a little boy. How old would he be? 8, 9, 10, 11? Held to the ground. His father, his mother, his family screaming to let him go. And the father is machine gunned. And the butcher puts the drill to the little boy's head and drills his brains out. There wasn't a Jew who did that, because Jews don't do that. There wasn't a Christian who did that, because Christians don't do that. That was an Islamo-Nazi doing it to a Muslim. This is going on widespread in this third world throwback part of the planet. The cockroaches are on the loose, and there's no effective force to stop them. We can keep lamenting what happened to the Iraqi military. We can keep lamenting that the police force... Okay, great. And you know what? A lot of those Iraqis in the military are brave and were brave men, and they were captured and they were slaughtered. You can't blame the infantry for what the generals did to them. You can't blame the police officers for what the chief of police did to them. Many of them died. They didn't all just turn and run. I want you to think about something else. Every single person over there who worked with us prior to the Obama administration, who worked with us, who assisted us, our armed forces, President Bush, is either dead or a dead man and woman walking. We've left them there. We've left them there so that evil could rise up and swallow them. I don't care how many moronic buffoons they appoint as press secretaries at the State Department or the Defense Department or at the White House. This is truly an abomination. Absolutely an abomination. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
You know, my friends, over the last several years, you've heard me talk about what a great advocacy group AMAC is. But AMAC offers its members more than just advocacy, where it advances our conservative principles in Washington. You know, AMAC membership also gives you access to a comprehensive and growing list of exceptional benefits and discounts. Medicare products, auto insurance, roadside assistance plans, savings on hotels and car rentals, discount dental and vision plans, an AMAC credit card with a great rewards program, and a hell of a lot more. It's absolutely wonderful. I am an AMAC member. A $16 annual AMAC membership can save you hundreds over the course of the year, and all this from an organization that works tirelessly on behalf of its members, not against them. Now, you know where AMAC stands. I stand with them, and I would encourage you to stand with them too. And if you're looking for exceptional money-saving benefits from an organization that stands up for conservative values, then the choice is clear. Join AMAC. Forget about the AARP. If you're a member, get out of it. Get the great discounts and benefits that AMAC offers as a conservative organization. Join AMAC today, as I did. Go to www.amac.us. That's www.amac.us. Because AMAC is better for you, and better for America. All right, let's see if we can slip a call in here quickly. Larry, Youngstown, Ohio, on the Marc Levin app. How are you, sir?
Hi, Mark. I love your discernment, your passion. You're genuine, and you point out so many things so well. And in light of all of this barbaric activity with ISIS and, you know, all the corruption in the government and so on, I I get so frustrated because no matter how well we articulate it and point it out and so on, as you've said so often, people can go to a movie or go to a restaurant or watch a football game, and it's like there's just this apathy where they're just not shaken up, or they don't see the imminent danger of it as the country's unraveling and the world's unraveling in front of us. So I guess really my question for you is, how do we deal with the apathy? I mean, is it going to take another attack? I mean, we don't want tragedy.
Yes.
Yes. Listen,
I'm going to run out of time, Larry, and here's the thing. Yes, it is. I don't want this. I'm not encouraging this. But yes, it is, and yes, it will. It's going to take something god-awful. Not necessarily an attack, the collapse of our currency, the collapse of our economic system, the blowout, implosion of part of our economy. Yes, it's going to take something like that. And the problem is it might be too late at that point. Thank you, Larry. You're a good man, and I appreciate it. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin, the voice of America. Dial in now at 877-381-3811.
Michael, Lehigh Acres, Florida, the great WFSX. Go.
Great one. I wanted to thank you. You put your money where your mouth is through litigation against this corrupt king of ours, and I just wanted to say thank you. My issue with the Republicans, Mark, is that we elected these Republicans to stop this man. They're not doing what they were elected to do. They're rubber stamping everything that this man is putting forth. I mean, is this the Republicans' legacy, Mark? I mean, is this what history is going to show? They stood idly by on the sidelines as this guy went and did everything he wanted without any obstruction?
Virtually, yes. And we're going to see if they stand up to the immigration issue now, which is a constitutional issue. They now have a federal judge who stands with them. The American people stand with them. As I just finished explaining, like I don't believe anybody else has, that you actually will not be shutting down the Department of Homeland Security because 83% of the people are considered essential. So why the hell would the Republicans give up on this? And in addition, I have my own plan, which is no filibuster rule for the pendency of this president, given his unconstitutional acts. And the filibuster rule is a Senate rule. It's not in the Constitution. And at some point, the Republicans are going to need to adopt this because Obama controls the Senate through Harry Reid and a minority, that is 46 Democrats. Thank you for your call, sir. Mr. Producer, I expect you to tip me off when the time comes, okay? All right. This is the problem. And if the Republican Party's not careful, the Republican Party is going to shrivel up and blow away. You know, we conservatives are trying to not only save the Republic, but if this Republican establishment and the corporatists and the millionaire and billionaire donors who fund this entity don't get their act together, they're going to be rejected. It's going to be a very small regional party because it doesn't address the issues that are big. It's more worried about the Washington Post editorial page than what's going on in the country. But I have to give the House credit. The House passed the right bill when it comes to the Department of Homeland Security and Immigration. They will not fund Obama's unconstitutional actions. The problem is you have very weak members of the Senate who are part of the progressive wing of the Republican Party, and let's call a spade a spade. That's what it is, a progressive wing of the Republican Party, the anti-Reagan wing, and they're buckling all the time. And their idea of governing is not governing. Their idea is capitulation. So why do we need a Senate? Why do we need a Congress if the idea of governing is doing whatever the president tells you to do? This I don't understand. And why have checks and balances? And why have separation of powers? Now, I understand the Washington Compost. The Washington Compost doesn't believe in the American founding, doesn't believe in the Constitution. I get all that. The only part of the Constitution they fully support is the part that protects them in the First Amendment. Other than that, the rest of us can go to hell. But how do you explain the Republicans? And I've explained it many, many times. They're not conservatives. The Republican Party today is not a conservative party. It's not a constitutional party. It is a leaderless party. And that's the problem. Senator Ted Cruz, how are you, sir?
Mark, I'm doing terrific. How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully, thank you. I'm fine, but the world's going to hell. That doesn't sound right, does it?
Boy, ain't that the truth.
All right, let me ask you a question, Senator. Let's focus in. We have a federal judge, smart guy, graduated #1 Baylor Law. I know they're trying to paint him, as some bumpkin, but he's not. And he wrote an outstanding opinion. And he said, Senator, wait a minute. We can't allow this president to implement all this stuff while this is working its way through the courts. What's your take on this?
I think the opinion is exactly right. I think last night's decision from the federal court was a major victory for the rule of law. And what the federal court concluded was that the president's executive amnesty was contrary to federal law, that it was illegal. And one of the most important part of the opinions is the president attempted to justify this, as you know, under the theory of prosecutorial discretion, that the administration was simply failed to prosecute about 4.5 million people here illegally. And the federal court said that is absolutely false. What they're doing is not discretion. It is affirmative conduct because they are issuing work authorizations that are directly contrary to federal law. In effect, they're counterfeiting work authorizations and immigration paperwork because federal law makes it illegal for people here illegally to work.
Mm-hmm. And here's my question to you, effectively. I see the weak part, the progressive wing, the anti-Reagan wing of the party. Certain members are already starting to buckle. They not only buckle, they go to the liberal outlets and they explain why we all should buckle to a president like this. And I'm thinking to myself, and National Review Online has this, and I've talked about this. Over 80% of the personnel at the Department of Homeland Security are identified by the government as essential. Therefore, even if the Department of Homeland Security shuts down, 200,000 out of the 231,000 employees there continue to work and they get paid later. That's number one.
Right.
Number two, so nothing is shut down. So there's the secretary of DHS who goes out saying, oh my God, the Secret Service. Well, they don't get shut down. Doesn't he know what gets shut down? Did you guys vote to abolish the Department of Homeland Security?
We did not.
Okay, so unless you vote to abolish the Department of Homeland Security, these essential personnel continue. So what is it exactly? Why are certain Republicans buckling? I don't even get it.
Well, it is unfortunate, but I'll say this. I think last night's opinion puts Senate Democrats in an extraordinarily difficult opinion. Senate Democrats right now are filibustering funding the Department of Homeland Security. They're voting in a partisan bloc and preventing the Senate even from taking up the bill. So the House has voted to fund DHS, and we should fund DHS. And with the decision last night, I think the President has put Senate Democrats in an impossible position politically, because if they continue to stand together and filibuster to shut down the Department of Homeland Security, then they're doing it to force implementation of conduct by the president that the federal court has concluded is illegal. And that makes no sense for them to risk cutting off funding for DHS at a time when we've got growing threats at home and abroad. I think is reckless and irresponsible, and it's time for the Democrats to stop playing games.
Mm-hmm. But they're not going to stop playing games. And this is what's remarkable. I mean, the Republicans talk about wanting to govern in a bipartisan manner. The Democrats have no interest in governing in a bipartisan manner, and they just carry out Obama's wishes in the Senate, don't they?
Sadly, the modern Democratic Party, it is all about politics. It is all about partisan warfare. In my view, what the Republicans should focus on doing is honoring the commitments that we made to the men and women who elected us. All across this country, Republicans campaigned saying, if you elect us, if you give us a Republican majority in the Senate, number one, we will stand up and we will fight with every breath in our body to stop the train wreck that is Obamacare. And number two, we will stop President Obama's illegal and unconstitutional amnesty. We need to do what we said. We need to honor our commitments. That's what Republicans should be doing, and we need to be focusing all of the heat and all of the attention on the Democrats who are trying to hold national security hostage in order to force an illegal and unconstitutional amnesty policy on the American people.
Mm-hmm. And how do you think this is going to wind up? It's hard to know, isn't it? The president has said he's going to appeal this decision, and I think that appeal will work its way through the system. In the Senate, the question is going to come down to the Democrats, and are they willing to blink? And by the way, it's worth noting, if the Democrats happen to disagree with a particular provision that the House passed, they have an easy remedy. They can offer an amendment. We're not living in the world of Harry Reid's Senate anymore where the Democrats control it and they effectively shut off all amendments from either side. Under the Republican majority, one of the best things this new majority has done is let the Senate operate. So senators in both parties, Republicans and Democrat, can offer amendments. So if Democrats happen to disagree with a particular provision of the House bill, we ought to take it up and let them offer their amendment and actually try to convince their colleagues. They don't want to do that. And I'll tell you, part of the reason they don't want to do that, Mark, is because they're scared. 7 different Senate Democrats all across this country campaigned telling the American people they opposed President Obama's illegal executive amnesty. And so they don't want to have it clear that what they're doing in office is directly contrary to what they told the voters. They don't want to have it made clear that they deliberately told falsehoods to the voters. I have a quick question. I know we don't have a lot of time, so it's not fair, but I really need your take on this.
Sure.
I mean, this spread of terrorism, this Islamo-terrorism, and it's getting worse and worse. The brutality is getting worse and worse. It is so frustrating to watch this president so cold-bloodedly play golf, fundraise, refusing to use the proper language, not rallying the world, not building up our military for what now needs to be what will be a major confrontation. More, it should be on our terms than their terms. And you know, Ted, and also the way we left Iraq with him and the incompetence of Joe Biden that helped unleash this. Have you ever seen anything like this in your life?
It is stunning. We are seeing the manifest disaster of the Obama-Clinton-Kerry foreign policy. Leading from behind doesn't work. And the one person in this country thrilled at the job Barack Obama's doing is Jimmy Carter. Because suddenly Carter's foreign policy seems resolute compared to the absolutely feckless and naive lack of leadership from this administration. Look, we saw this week 21 Coptic Christians beheaded by radical Islamic terrorists. It was heartbreaking. Every one of us is lifting them up in prayer. We saw today ISIS lighting 45 people on fire. This is the face of evil, and the president consistently refuses to utter the words radical Islamic terrorism. He will not say it. We saw the president say with regard to the horrific terrorist attack in Paris that it was a, quote, random act of violence. It was not a random act of violence when radical Islamists went into a kosher deli to murder Jews because of their Jewish faith. That was not random. It was anti-Semitic religious bigotry and zealotry, and we need a president who stops this politically correct doublespeak and simply speaks the truth.
Mm-hmm. All right, Senator Cruz, I appreciate your input. I'm sorry to bother you at dinner time with your family, but we wanted to hear from you.
Well, thank you, Mark. God bless you. And I will say, as horrific as what's happening abroad is, the decision last night from the Federal District Court was a major victory for rule of law and the Constitution, and that is cause for celebration. And I believe it's a turning point in the battle to stop and to end President Obama's illegal and unconstitutional executive amnesty.
Boy, I second that. God knows that would be a great thing. All right, Senator, thank you. You take care. All right, he's a good man. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
If you're like many Americans, well, then you know the Constitution is important. But do you really know the rights and liberties it allows you to enjoy every day that are specifically provided for? They don't come from politicians. They don't come from Congress. They don't come from the president or the courts. They're yours. Hillsdale College has declared 2015 the year of the Constitution. And they teach it better than anyone else. In fact, every student, regardless of the major they take, is required to master a course on the Constitution. Now, this course is available to you online for free. And every one of you, I think, owes it to yourself to take advantage of this so you can understand the Constitution and spread the word. After all, we can't have freedom. We can't have freedom without our Constitution. The course is Constitution 101, and it's provided free as part of Hillsdale's basic mission to defend liberty. And you can register free today. And once you start the course, you'll receive a new lecture every week that you can watch whenever you want, along with the readings, discussion boards, and more. You can participate a little, not at all, or really get into it. Make 2015 your year to learn, really understand the Constitution. It's not hard. As a matter of fact, it's fun. Sign up for Constitution 101 for free at levinforhillsdale.com, levinforhillsdale.com. That's Levin for Hillsdale.com. Let's slip in another caller. Ferris, Fairfield, Connecticut, the great WABC. Go.
Good evening, Mark.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to applaud your appeals to restore the Republic, and my suggestion for a way to do it is to lobby those lawyers who have robes called judges, and take your personal acquaintances and use them to the fullest, because these are real people, and they can be influenced by knowing.
Well, let me slow you down. You can't lobby them. How would you lobby them?
Here's how I lobby them. I was fortunate to make the acquaintance of Antonin Scalia at a dinner in his honor one evening a couple years ago in Mystic, Connecticut. He was given our man of the our Medal of Honor.
Listen. Just because you talk to a justice at a dinner, the American people can't lobby justices in any significant way.
Oh, I think you're mistaken, Mark. I think it is possible.
Oh, okay. What should we do? Write them letters?
Well, no. You can call them personally, and you can visit them.
No, you can't call them personally and visit them about a case before the court.
Well, you can certainly exercise.
All right, thanks for your call. I'm not going to go round and round and in what is clearly unethical. No, you can't. You can't. Now, you can keep saying you can, but you can't. Hey, you know that case in front of you, Justice? Oh, yes. I want to sit down and have a chat with. They're not members of Congress. And it would be outrageous if you could, quite frankly. They're supposed to decide the case based on the facts and the law, not on lobbying. And that's part of the problem. I can't find my damn list. Here it is. Here we have again Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who should retire from the damn bench. She's lost her mind altogether. Cut 4, Mr. Producer. Go. Hat tip, Breitbart.
People who think you could wave a magic wand and the legacy of the past will be over are blind. Think of neighborhood living patterns. We still have many neighborhoods that are racially identified. We still have many schools, even though the days of state-enforced segregation are gone. Segregation because of geographical boundaries.
You know, this is
remains.
amazing. This is a lady. This is a lady who does not live in Anacostia, Washington, D.C. This is a lady who went to Ivy League privileged schools, mostly whites. This is a lady who serves on the Supreme Court with one black man who's hated by the left because he's a constitutionalist. She talks out of all 14 sides of her mouth, and that's only when she's sober. Time to go. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Marc Levin.
Hello, everybody. Marc Levin here again, of course. This is the Marc Levin Show, after all. A very good evening to you. Very good evening. Hour 3, our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. In our little commonwealth we call Virginia here, some of you have heard of it, perhaps. We have a Democrat governor who's a complete moron, Terry McAuliffe. As the liberal locusts keep pouring into this state from Maryland and D.C. and other dark blue hives of liberalism, and they just vote Democrat. And we have 2 Democrats in the Senate as we slowly but surely destroy my beloved Virginia. Thankfully, we do control the Assembly, the House of Delegates in Virginia, and I think by like 1 vote or something, the state Senate. So the Republicans in the House of Delegates had a pretty cool idea. They see what's going on in Washington with the Democrats stabbing Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu in the back, doing Obama's dirty work, which they're wont to do. Goose-stepping all over the Capitol building, you might say. So the Republicans in the House of Delegates in Virginia, well, they had an idea. Let's pass a resolution in support of Israel. This shouldn't be controversial. I mean, before Obama, it wasn't controversial. Before his re-election, it wasn't controversial. Let's pass a resolution stating our support for Israel. So the majority whip, the number 3 member of the House of Delegates, introduces it. And you know what happens? All the Democrats get up and they walk out. They walked out of the Virginia House of Delegates. Can't do this. We can't do this. My God. Well, why can't they? So they gave it a second try as they shuffled back in, goose-stepping all the way. And again, the majority whip in the Virginia Assembly said, well, now that our friends are back, let's have that vote. And they walked out again. So you liberal Democrats who happen to be Jewish who vote in these House of Delegate members like this woman Murphy and McLean and so forth, she walked out. Now, of course, they support Israel. Don't get me wrong. They're opposed to terrorism. You know, oh, yes, yes, yes. These are serious people, except when they actually have to vote on a simple resolution. You see, ladies and gentlemen, Obama has dragged the Democrat Party into a very ugly place. And I don't care how many liberal Democrat Jews say otherwise. The Democrat Party is now the anti-Israel party, the pro-tyranny party. But it's true. And that's what they are, and that's what they've become. Now, I don't know how this will sound. I haven't really listened to it on the video. The Washington Free Beacon has it. I have it as well. It is on YouTube, I think we call it. But whatever happened to Chris Christie? How come he's not issuing his YouTube moments anymore? His popularity in New Jersey is 37%. That's what happens when a governor doesn't pay attention to what's going on in his state and is so excited about being seen with the Dallas Cowboys or being seen with the president or running around the country like he's some kind of actor or whatever, you lose your support back home. Certainly if you're a Republican in a Democrat state. But I digress. Back to Virginia. Democrats in Virginia House flee the chamber twice rather than cast a vote on a resolution expressing support for the state of Israel. Cut 3, go.
659 encourages the United States in its continued support for the state of Israel.
Shall the resolution be agreed to? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 70, noes 2.
Ayes 70, noes 2. The resolution is agreed to.
Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Manassas, Mr. Miller.
Mr. Speaker, having voted on the prevailing side of H.J. 659, on which we just voted, I move for another vote now that about 20 members are back in their seats over here. Oh, that's all right. The 20 members are leaving again, Mr. Speaker.
That's called a profiling courage.
William Howell's the Speaker of the House of Delegates, so you heard it. I think every Republican, or almost every Republican, voted for the resolution. 2 voted against, Democrats, and all the other Democrats shuffled out twice. Because this apparently is controversial among Democrats now. I want to say a side point, a footnote to the rest of the country, too. There is a delegate by the name of David Ramadan. I believe he's Muslim. Delegate Ramadan voted for the pro-Israel resolution. When this man was running for election, I was told time and time and time again to oppose him. To oppose him because the thinking was that he's not very conservative at all. I didn't see any reason to oppose him. Everything I read about him told me he was a pretty good guy. I don't know if he's a pretty good guy or not. But isn't it interesting? He voted for this resolution while all the Democrats were shuffling out. Ooh, this is a conspiracy. This must be politics. Of course, they never play politics. But I wanted everybody in the nation to know it. I wanted the people of Virginia to know it because it was another spectacle as the Democrats run away from the only democracy in the Middle East, and this is what's happened now. They're like the Europeans. They like the Europeans. How many times have the Democrats said, well, they do it in Europe, we ought to do it here. Well, look, anti-Semitism is rampant in Europe, so we ought to do it. Oops, wait. Let's not say, let's just shuffle out of the assembly building. The world's greatest financial fraudster. It's not a person. It's not a company. It's the United States government. Richard Rahn, who's a great man, an economist who worked in the Reagan administration, writing in the Washington Times. He says, the reason there's so little remorse about tax avoidance and evasion is that virtually everyone knows that much of what government does is a ripoff. If people really believe the government is under-resourced, and spends its money wisely, they would not take legal, charitable, and other deductions when they file their income taxes. Even a big government liberal like Obama makes charitable deductions because he knows or suspects that the charities he gives to will spend the money more wisely than the government he oversees. The president's buddy, Al Not-So-Sharpton, is welcome at the White House almost any time, even though the IRS reportedly claims he owes millions in unpaid taxes. Wow. Now, if Mr. Sharpton had robbed a supermarket of a mere $10,000, it's unlikely he'd be welcome at the White House. So the message is obvious. The government even tells us that federal employees, including thousands at the IRS, owe billions in back taxes, yet little is done. At the same time, IRS leaders have the unmitigated gall to demand larger budgets. Every thinking person implicitly knows that the U.S. government is the world's biggest financial fraudster. The cumulative yearly fraud by government actors is well in excess of $1 trillion and takes many forms. And he goes on in an outstanding article that we will link to. And this is why it infuriates me every time somebody is proposing a tax increase. Hey, let's close a loophole. Hey, let's get rid of the death tax. Hey, let's soak the rich. Hey, let's have subsidies. Hey, let's tax Obamacare. Hey, nothing. Enough is enough. Big, fat, bloated, wasteful government. You want to talk about methane? Think about how the government conducts itself. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
Remember that story I did yesterday, for those of you who are listening? The two 18-year-olds who were soliciting door to door to shovel driveways and walking paths and steps for various homeowners in violation of the no solicitation ordinance without a permit. So we were inviting the police chief on, and the mayor has agreed to come on. The mayor is a veteran. The mayor, I understand, is a Republican, and I assume he wants to defend their ordinance. Now, that's an assumption. I don't know, but we'll talk to him. Happy to do it, and I am very interested in it. I'll just hold my fire till I talk to the mayor. I told you about Harry's razors in the past. They're terrific razors. Now, when did shaving get so expensive and inconvenient? You know, the trip to the store, the cost of the blades, not to mention the hassle of finding a store clerk to unlock the case. Yeah, they protect it like they're protecting gold bullion. It's enough to discourage anyone. Well, Harry's has a solution. I really want you to listen to this. Why not let Harrys.com take care of your shaving needs? Their shaving set starts at only $15, and that includes the razor, 3 high-quality German blades, and your choice of Harry's shave cream or foaming shave gel. It's shipped right to your house, and shipping is always free, and it's a high-quality shave, and that's guaranteed. And right now, you and my audience, listeners of my show, you can get $5 off your first purchase when you use my code LEVIN at checkout. That's LEVIN. $5 off your first order. That's 1/3. Go to Harrys.com, enter my code LEVIN, LEVIN, at checkout to get the $5 off your first order. And that's right. With my code LEVIN, you can get a month's worth of shaving for just $10. Comes right to your door, no charge for shipping. And it's the highest quality product you can imagine. I know I have one. That's Harrys.com. Enter code LEVIN at checkout and change the way you shave forever. You're going to be very impressed with this product. You're going to really, most of us, we shave, you really hate it, don't you? Well, I don't hate it anymore. This is a wonderful product. Give it a try. It's $5 off your first purchase. Harrys.com, enter code LEVIN. Have I ever led you astray? No. And I'm not now either. Can I tell you a nice story? All this crap surrounding us, swirling around us. Here's a nice story. From CBS LA. Researchers at Yale are using cognitive interactive studies to learn more about how dogs' minds work. You all know I'm a dog lover, and I care deeply about, trying to contribute resources to help no-kill shelters. Laurie Santos, director of the Yale Canine Cognition Center, explains that hundreds of volunteer dogs, now that's a little odd, but we'll continue, are used as subjects of puppet shows and a series of other cognitive tests. Dogs are just fascinating, she said. We love them. They live in our homes. Anyone who hangs out with a dog is kind of wondering, what are they thinking? Do they love me? In the puppet show exam, the dogs are shown one scene where a rat puppet assists a hedgehog puppet up a hill. In a different scene, the rat puppet knocks the hedgehog puppet down. Similar studies have been done with human infants, and what we find is that infants don't like the guy who was mean, Santos said. So we're doing the same thing with the dogs to try and see if dogs morally evaluate, the way humans do. By the end of the puppet show test, the dogs did indeed appear to be weary of the rat puppet. Another test involves a book. In the book test, the dog looks on as his or her companion sits and reads, and then puts the book on the floor behind them. Moments later, someone comes into the room and takes the book. What we really want to see is whether or not dogs know when we've missed some information, Santos said. Do they realize that first of all, and when they do realize it, are they motivated to help? The results indicate not only do the dogs seem to realize something is wrong, but that they also appear to be attempting to alert their companions, many of whom didn't seem surprised by their dog's concern. At home, he's really observant, dog owner April Ruiz said. He's always paying attention. Now, a third test includes the dog and companion relaxing in a room when a researcher appears to introduce a new object. The goal of this test is to see whether or not a dog will become interested in the same item as humans. The results suggest that most were. The most surprising thing so far is how many of our intuitions about dogs are right. Yale Junior Rebecca Spaulding said that dogs have feelings and dogs want to communicate with us. There's many as 1,000 dogs on the center's waiting list. Now, you know what? This is wonderful and heartbreaking at the same time. It's wonderful to know that your dog has a lot more intelligence and emotion than, you may have thought. Now, many of us who are dog owners already know this, but this is being confirmed now. But the sad part of this is how many dogs are mistreated, are raised in cages, can't find homes, and are otherwise suffering. They go through these emotions too. They go through a thought process too. And their lives are very short. They're relatively short. It just kills me when I hear about mistreated dogs, and I know I speak for all of us. If you have a local shelter, a no-kill shelter, make sure of that. I hope you'll support it. $5 a month goes a long way. If you can't afford it, I understand. I'm not pressuring anybody. But it's something to think about. Many of us have loose change that we can just consider giving. It makes a huge difference. If you go on my social sites, Marc Levin Show Facebook, Marc Levin Show Twitter, you'll notice the local shelter that I support. This is where I got Barney from. Lost Dog and Cat. And it's a wonderful shelter. You should check them out. And there are other ones too. But in particular, since in the past we have adopted older dogs who've had health issues, I set up a fund there myself. The Pepsi Griffin Sprite Gift Fund. And that fund is used to help older dogs that have serious medical issues. In other words, so-called unwanted dogs. The toughest cases. If you want to support that, that's a wonderful thing to do too. The great news is it's all tax deductible. And that means your money will go where you want it to go rather than where Obama and the left wants it to go. Anyway, think about it. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin, the modern voice of the Founding Fathers. This is the Marc Levin Show. Dial in now at 877-381-3811.
Mayor Robert Faison of Bound Brook, New Jersey, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel, a Republican. Sir, was this story I read in the newspaper about two 18-year-olds shoveling, making a little money on the side, their neighbors, sidewalks and so forth, a violation of an ordinance in your town?
Hi, Mark.
How are you, sir?
I am outstanding. I'm calling. He may or may not have been in violation of the ordinance, but that's not the gist of the story, and I really would like to tell you what happened.
Yeah, I do want to know about this ordinance, though, but go right ahead.
Okay. No, I can talk about the ordinance. It's a typical ordinance in most municipalities, and I'll discuss that. But basically, the Fox News story you referred to last night, by the way, I'm an avid listener of yours, and I really enjoy being...
Oh, that's not fair, but thank you. I appreciate it.
But the Fox
By the way,
News
where
story
is your town? I know New Jersey somewhat.
It's, we're 6 miles from Rutgers Stadium.
Yeah.
And I'm 25 miles from the Holland Tunnel. I used to commute through there. Well,
I know where that is. All right. Go right ahead, sir.
Okay. Like I said, the Fox News story that you referred to last night was fairly inaccurate in its brevity primarily. But
tell us what happened.
Basically what happened, at about 6:30 in the evening prior to the snow, our police department received a call from a Bound Brook resident stating that there were suspicious people walking around the neighborhood over the front yards. It was dark at the time, and they called the police. The police responded. When they observed the two teenagers, they told them that there was a suspicious person report. I was not there, but the police officer indicated that he was concerned for the safety, as well he should be, and asked them, really, could you come back in the morning when it's lighter out, and please bring snow shovels with you so everybody knows what you're doing. The officer was very polite, and I think the two teenagers reflected that when they were...
Wait a minute, that's all that happened?
That's all that happened.
Well, how the hell did this become a news story? That's perfectly legitimate.
This was 3 weeks ago, Mark. I don't know. I've received calls from England. I've received calls calling our police Gestapos. This just goes on and on. I don't know when it's going to end, but...
Well, who went to the media with this story? You think the boys did?
Well, actually, the first story that came out from our local newspaper, the Courier News in Piscataway, I believe it's published, told the whole story very accurately, and basically ended it by saying the two teenagers felt that they were treated fairly and respected, and they were very happy that the police were concerned for their safety.
So these guys are walking around 6:30 at night. They don't have shovels with them. The cops get a call that the suspicious people. The cop shows up and he says, "Look, you do this in the morning. Bring your shovel so people know who you are, and that's it." That's a non-story.
I couldn't agree more.
I am glad you came on the program, Mayor.
Well, that's why I came on the program.
The cops were great.
No, they were. They did their job, and
well, let me ask you this.
Yes.
So you're not opposed, and your town isn't going to be rounding up kids who are helping to shovel snow off of some old lady's driveway?
As a matter of fact, let me give some praise to Mike Janone, our chief of police. This was late last week. He came into my office and said, "Mayor, maybe we can make something of this incident, make something good about this incident." And we were both receiving 2-3 calls a day, similar to your perception of your initial perception of what happened. And he said, "Why don't we initiate a program with the Board of Education and see if they would be interested in forming something like the Entrepreneurs Club? They may be able to put a list together of people who could help our senior citizens, of which we have a lot, for various tasks, including snow shoveling." And I said it was a great idea, but the landscaping business might object to that, but we're going to look into that.
Well, that's a great thing. You got a hell of a chief there. Well, you know what? This is important you came on this program and straightened this out. So the reporting has not been accurate in many cases. Not even close. It told the beginning of the story, but not the end. Mm-hmm. Well, Mayor, we salute you. That's good. Well, I appreciate that. Now you can keep listening. Mark, I would never stop listening. But I do want to... You made two statements last night. Uh-oh, what did I say? Okay, one, you said our culture is being destroyed. Well, that is true. The other is our culture is being devoured by government at all levels. That's true, too. I just want to assure you that I think you're probably right on those statements, but that's not true here in Bound Brook. Well, I got to move there. It's great. It's the one place where, where things aren't being devoured. That's good. No, we have a... Well, let me ask you this. Do you have a good delicatessen there? Oh, do we ever? We have quite a few good restaurants. You have a good Italian restaurant there? I think they're ranked number 5 in the state of New Jersey. Oh, that's a big deal. At the train station. Wow. And if you are ever interested, I would be... I know this probably... You can't buy me dinner because I'm the mayor, but I would be happy to buy you dinner. Yeah, in New Jersey, you can't buy the mayor dinner. The money goes under the table. Not to you. I'm not talking about you. You're not in Hudson County, are you? No. Not at all. That's a whole other story. And I'm a West Pointer, and I'm very honest. You know what? It's an honor, and you're retired Lieutenant Colonel, which is a big deal. All right. Well, God bless you. Thank you for coming on and straightening all this out. That's very important. Mark, thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it. No, my pleasure. You take care of yourself, Mayor. You too. I'll keep all right. Bye-bye. Mayor Robert Faison, the mayor of Bound Brook, New Jersey. I'm glad we got this straightened out. I don't like bad information going out over the airways. Now, understand, I didn't report this. I repeated what somebody reported. And they really ought to get their acts together and fix that. So people should stop calling this mayor, because you are allowed to shovel snow in that town. You just got to have shovels and not do it at night, which is probably a good idea. Let's go to John, Huntsville, Alabama, the great WVNN. Go.
Mark, good evening.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mark, as you well know, most of Israel, modern Israel, is a result of what happened after World War II. And you hear this anti-colonial argument from Obama. I get it. I don't agree with it. But how does that argument apply against Israel? These were dispossessed people that inhabited a forlorn corner of the earth because it's the only place they had to go, and they made it blossom. Why the animals? And, of course, they inhabited it 5,000 years ago till they were chased out of there, too. The modern Israel, blossomed after World War II.
Well, John, you're right. Let me ask you a question. Where did Iraq's borders come from?
Well, as a result of the treaty, right?
Where did Transjordan's borders come from? Jordan's.
The same.
Where did Saudi Arabia was a creation?
Yeah,
Kuwait was a creation. I can go all through these areas, and yet Bethlehem, the birthplace of Christianity, is now controlled by the Arabs. Jerusalem, a good chunk of it, the birthplace of Judaism, which predates Christianity and Islam, is now heavily controlled by Arabs, and apparently the Muslim Arabs think they own the whole area.
Right. So why the hatred against Israel? And I think I figured it out, Mark, because amongst all these countries, right, it was the Jewish people that built this powerful democracy in the middle of nothing, and I think it's a thorn in the eye of the people around them. They hate them because it proves their inferiority. I don't know a lack of a better word. Yeah, I think it's hard on them to look at this democracy in the middle of the desert and accept the success that it has.
You know what, John? I think that's a good point. I also think for some it is just this visceral hatred of Jews handed down one generation to the next. The Palestinians worked very, very closely with the Third Reich and Himmler and Hitler himself, trying to figure out how to wipe out the Jews in the Middle East. This is just it is an indoctrination. It goes on generation after generation after generation in that part of the world.
Yeah, and that leads me to a question I want to ask you. How long can Bibi Netanyahu stand on an island and do nothing? You know, if Iran gets the bomb, is he not forced?
You expect this tiny little country with, 12 million people?
I know.
Hold on, listen to me. To attack Iran that has 70 million people. Then Hezbollah is unleashed. Hamas will then become unleashed. ISIS, and the entire focus will be on them without support from the West?
But if they don't have us supporting them, and they don't right now, what are they going to do, Mark? They got.
Well, I don't know. You know, this is why Netanyahu says to anyone who will listen that this is an existential threat, and what that means is this is life and death.
Absolutely,
that's what it is. They don't have a second chance.
And if we don't get back behind them like we should, like we owe them.
Well, this piece of crap president isn't going to do it. And there I said it. And it's true. The idea that the enemy is on the rise, the Islamo-Nazis all over the world, decapitating Muslims, burning Christians, killing Jews, killing each other, and we're attacking Netanyahu. He can mention Netanyahu by name. He can mention Israel by name. But by God, he won't mention the enemy. Thank you for your call. And I've had it up to here with this man. There's no rationalizing what Obama's doing. It is pure hate. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I don't care about the consequences. Yes, he's an anti-Semite. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
In Louisiana, the state can suspend your driver's license if you owe more than $1,000 in unpaid taxes. Now, that's what happened to one man, albeit for a tax return he didn't file. Someone stole his identity and filed a return without him even knowing it. Now he's buried in paperwork, trying to fix things and get his license back. And tax day is coming. It's not that far off. You need to really think about this. No one can stop all identity theft. Identity thieves are smart, and they're experts at what they do. And everything about us, even our bank records, they're connected and stored on some cloud. All it takes is one hack, one breach, and thieves could have everything they need to take over your life. This is precisely why I have LifeLock Ultimate Plus. That's right. LifeLock's best just got better. And my parents have it too. LifeLock Ultimate Plus is the most comprehensive identity theft protection available anywhere. Visit LifeLock.com/Levin. That's LEVIN. LifeLock.com/Levin right now. Or call and use promo code Levin to save 10% on your LifeLock Ultimate membership. Here's the number. 1-800-457-LOCK. 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 Network doesn't cover all transactions. Now, if you don't do this, one day you're going to wish you did. And it's very time-consuming, very inconvenient, and very expensive to undo what these jerks will do to you, these hackers. And many of them are overseas. Nobody can get to them. So as I say, you have to look at your own life, look at your own finances, protect your bank accounts, protect what you own, protect what you have. There's no better at this than LifeLock Ultimate Plus. LifeLock.com/Levin, Levin. Chris, Bay Area, California, the great KSFO. Go.
Hi.
Yes, sir. Go.
So I was driving around San Francisco today, and on their municipal bus system, they have a poster stating Israel's war crimes, your tax dollars at work.
They do?
So I thought it was probably the most messed up thing I've seen, considering they're a government-run transportation system, and you shouldn't be showing political ads like that.
Well, I guess there is this thing we call free speech, which applies specifically to the government, but it's very interesting. Israel's war crimes, your tax dollars at work. I'm telling you this. San Francisco is one of the most left-wing cities on the face of the earth and the whole planet. Even though there are many wonderful conservatives, including you folks who listen to this program, but the government there is nuts, Many of the people there are absolutely crazy out of their minds. And this is a fact now that the left is extremely hostile to Israel, as the left is extremely hostile to America. And there's a common theme here. It's not religion. It's the opposite of that. The common theme is the left has a totalitarian mindset. The left doesn't like little d democracies or little r republics unless they can control them. And if they can't control them, they reject them. So while San Francisco is, celebrated as a hotbed of democracy and so forth and so on, the rest of the world that doesn't follow San Francisco is despised because the left is totalitarian. It's that simple. And by the way, should problems reach our shores from the Islamo-Nazis and so forth, it'll be the left that will say, hey, what happened, man? Hey, what's going on? Hey, screw you. Thank you for your call. Derek, Simsbury, Connecticut, the great XM satellite. How may I help you, sir?
Mark, great to talk to you. I'll tell you, I am so proud to hear about all the downloads that have happened on your podcast. It helps me sleep at night. I'll get to my point really quickly.
Yes,
I'm the proud father of 3 young daughters, 11, 9, and 6, and it just disgusted me, the conversation that we had last night about what's going on the other side of the world. Let me ask you this. Forget about the coalition of Europe and all the European countries in the U.S. Where are, and I'll start by asking a question, what's out of a total of all Muslims, what would you say is the percentage that are extremists? Okay, we'll call it a very small percentage.
Oh, well, hold on. Let's slow down. I don't know, but I know at least it's in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not millions. I mean, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the Muslim Brotherhood, all these organizations have hundreds of thousands of members.
How many millions and hundreds of millions of Muslims are there across
All right, but what's
the world?
the point? Where are we going with this?
What I want to know is the loudest voice against what's going on would come from the own peace.
The loudest voice against what's going on happens to be an American Jew sitting behind this microphone who says more to defend Muslims against Islamo-Nazis than any elected politician. Any. And I've been talking about this for years, paving the way for the other brave souls, the backbenchers, to follow me. This is World War III. We've got 2 caliphates going at the same time. Yes, we do. And I've been talking about this for the longest damn time and attacked for it, and I don't care. Thank you for your call. The appeasers, starting from Obama on down, the appeasers in the Democrat Party that turn their backs on the United States and our allies, like Israel, they don't speak for Muslims. This group CARE, a radical front group for Hamas, they don't speak for them. I speak for them. Law-abiding, honest people who want to live their lives, who are being decapitated, who are being raped, who are being slaughtered by fellow Muslims, Islamo-Nazis. This is the voice of reason. This is the voice of passion for the people who are screaming at the tops of their lungs as they go through unimaginable torture. Ladies and gentlemen, we salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, and emergency personnel. And I thank you, the real Americans out there, for listening to the program. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Marc Levin. Salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, and emergency personnel. And I thank you, the real Americans out there, for listening to the program. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Marc Levin.